This is a reenactment of an RAF fighter sweep that took place on the 2nd of June, 1942. Here, two wings of Spitfires approached the coast of France, a little after 9:30 in the morning. The mission: to seek out and destroy the enemy. This story focuses on 403 Squadron, a Canadian squadron. They had recently lost their squadron leader and a flight leader, and were looking to rebuild. Squadron leader Al Deere was brought in. He is a New Zealander and an ace from the Battle of Britain days. The following is from the 403 Squadron Operations Record Book. Tuesday, 2nd of June, 1942. The weather: haze over the channel, with 7/10 thin cloud layer at 26,000 feet and good visibility. The squadron was briefed for another sweep at 0930 hours, which proved to be the worst combat the squadron had experienced since its formation. 403 Squadron was to form up with the North Wheeled Wing at Chatham and set course for Hastings, with 333 Squadron leading, followed by 403 and 222 Squadrons. Rendezvous was to be made at Hastings with the Hornchurch Wing, and then set course for Cap Grinet at 0 feet, climbing to 20 to 25,000 feet over the French coast, with the Hornchurch Wing below. We were to sweep east to Saint-Omer, and then come out at Le Touquet and head for home. By 1942, German radar had caught up with the British coastal radar system and was pretty good. To defeat this, the wings come in at below 500 feet to avoid detection. It also helped them avoid the coastal artillery. Once reaching the coast, the formation climbed to about 26,000 feet. The German controllers tended to wait until the aircraft were over land, and then ordered their fighters up. Luftwaffe airfields and briefing rooms had loudspeakers installed so controllers could provide the latest information about enemy flights, altitudes, and the German pilots were fully prepared when they got into their aircraft. At this time of the war, German pilot skill was near peak. RAF fighters were being sent to the Mediterranean and the Far East, so the group that was left in Britain was fairly inexperienced. By April, the Germans had converted most of their Bf-109Fs to Focke-Wulf 190As. The A3 had solved the engine cooling problems that the Focke-Wulfs had initially. There had only been a few skirmishes between FW-190s and Spitfires. The British were flying the Spitfire Mark 5B, which was inferior to the FW-190s in every performance category except for turning. This is Al Deere's aircraft, identified by the blue squadron leader pennant on the fuselage. Deere had just arrived on May 1st, the month before. It was his third tour of duty, having flown in Dunkirk and during the Battle of Britain. Deere was Red 1. Red 2 is Sergeant Murphy. He was an American who signed up with the Canadian Air Force. He was one of the first Americans to fight for the RAF. Red 3 was Pilot Officer Doug Hurst. Red 4 is Pilot Officer Wozniak. Blue 1 is Flight Leader Mitzi Darling. He was new to the squadron and a friend of Deere's. They reunited on the 9th of April. Blue 2 is Warrant Officer Campbell. Blue 3 is Pilot Officer Parr. Blue 4 is Flight Sergeant Aitken. Yellow 1 is Flight Leader Brad Walker. Yellow 2 is Pilot Officer Gardner, Yellow 3 is Pilot Officer Summers, and Yellow 4 is Sergeant Hunt. This was the second fighter sweep of the day. The first one was rather uneventful and took place about 6:30 in the morning. This one was scheduled to launch at 9:30. As the planes reached Saint-Omer, they began a right turn, headed for Le Touquet and the coast. The first group of JG-26 was based at Saint-Omer. The second group was based further west in Abbeville, and the third group was based further east in Belgium. And Jagdgeschwader 2 was based even further west in France. Al had been in the United States for 6 months at the end of 1941. He was supposed to be educating American flyers who were inexperienced about what life was like in the European theater. He worked on the East Coast and bumped into Zemke, Gabreski, Schilling, but he wanted to get back to flying. so he finagled a job assisting a Royal Navy admiral who was flying back to England from the United States. When he got back, he found that, like a lot of other flyers, he'd been transferred to the Far East. So he talked to Lee Mallory. Lee Mallory didn't have any wing commander job openings, but he did have a squadron leader job, and Al got that. Here, 403 Squadron approaches Le Touquet, getting ready for the final leg home. Fighter Command really didn't know that much about the Focke-Wulf 190As. They even planned some secret missions to try to obtain one, to run some flight tests on it, to compare it to the Spitfire Mark V-B. About 3 weeks after this mission, they actually did manage to acquire a Focke-Wulf 190 when a pilot erroneously landed one on a British base. He thought he was landing in France. Flight test comparisons between the captured FW-190A and the Mark V-B confirmed that the Focke-Wulf was superior in all categories except turning. It was 25 to 30 miles per hour faster. It had great roll because of the aileron balancing and could easily split S to escape a Spitfire Mark V-B. A month after this mission, some squadrons began getting Spitfire Mark IXs, which were equal in performance to the FW-190As at altitudes below 25,000 feet and could actually outperform them above 25,000 feet. The day before the 2nd of June, on another fighter sweep, artillery hit a Spitfire on the coast, causing the pilot to bail out. Another aircraft circled to radio a mayday. Red 3, Pilot Officer Hurst, detected a half-dozen enemy aircraft trailing the formation. He radioed Deere. Deere waited until the aircraft got close. He had been planning a special break, a three-way break, and was waiting for the aircraft to get close enough to try it. Deere was assuming from his past experience that the Germans would make one pass and wouldn't stay and fight to circle with the better turning Spitfires. He was thinking, turn and face the enemy. There would be one pass, and that would be it. Here, Deere orders a break left. Yellow section went up and to the right, doing a 180. Red and blue sections broke left, with blue sections staying on the outside. This is the starting point for multiple pilot stories in this narrative, so I'm going to keep coming back to this point. There was a quick pass, and the pursuing 190s flew overhead. The remainder of the other two wings, mindful of their orders not to attack under unfavorable circumstances, left 403 Squadron to fend for themselves. This is Joachim Muncheberg. He was leading the second group of JG-26 at this time of the war. A staffel of 190s pursued the Spitfires as they left Le Touquet. They closed the distance quickly. As the Spitfires turned to face the pursuing 190s, the two remaining staffels attacked from the Spitfire's rear and out of the clouds. They hadn't been seen. Johannes Hannes Seifert was leading one Gruppe as the Spitfires engaged the first Gruppe of 190s. They also were hidden by clouds and dove in to attack. During the engagement, Müncheberg claimed 2 Spitfires. 2 other members of 2 Gruppe also had confirmed claims for 2 Spitfires. Seifert claimed 1 Spitfire, and 3 other pilots from 1 Gruppe also claimed a Spitfire. These were confirmed claims even though the RAF only lost 7 planes. In Deere's biography, 9 Lives, he says he didn't expect the Huns to stay and fight it out. He expected a quick pass and away, to avoid the Spitfire's superior turning rate, which is what the 109s did. Deere saw a Spitfire break into 2 after it was hit in the belly, demonstrating what the 190's cannons can do. Deere fired at 2 enemy aircraft. He didn't have enough time to stick around and see if he did any damage. It was break followed by attack, attack followed by break. Eventually, Deere's ammo ran out. His wingman Murphy stayed with him through the whole conflict, with all the turning, diving, and climbing. Towards the end, Murphy radioed Deere to break right, and he shot a 190 off Deere's tail. Murphy ended up on his back, flying towards the French coast. He flew over some villages and commented, "It seemed like every village had artillery fire." He eventually made his way back to Manston and landed there, one of 2 aircraft to land at Manston. 6 pilots reported on the action.
Squadron leader Deere, DFC and Bar, reports, "Coming out at Le Touquet, we were the last squadron out flying at 24,000 feet when we were attacked from above by 15 or 20 FW-190s who came in from the south. The squadron turned to meet the attack when a further 15 plus FW-190s that had followed us attacked from above and behind. The squadron split into pairs and our aircraft were heavily engaged in dogfights. While thus engaged, we were attacked by more enemy aircraft who came in from the south, making a total of 40 to 50 Huns engaging our squadron. The squadron leader was heavily attacked from all sides and exhausted all cannon and machine gun in short bursts at close range, engaging enemy aircraft head-on, astern, and full deflection. Being continually attacked and having to fire short bursts, there was no time to observe the results, and unfortunately the camera switch was not turned on. The squadron leader saw 2 aircraft hit the sea about 10 miles east of Le Touquet, one of which was definitely a Spitfire that broke in half in mid-air with the pilot bailing out. He also saw another parachute in the vicinity, but was unable to give a fix as he was chased by a FW-190 to mid-channel, which he could not engage having no ammo left. Flight leader Walker, Yellow 1, reports that he saw 20 plus enemy aircraft come in from the south and turned left to meet the attack when 4 FW-190s came down out of the cloud dead astern on red and blue sections. Flight leader Walker turned right to head them off, followed by Yellow 2, but Yellow 3 and 4 continued turning left. Flight leader Walker gave a short burst at enemy aircraft coming down on red and blue sections from a range of 400 yards, causing the enemy aircraft to brake and dive away. Yellow 2 was then attacked from port beam, and Yellow 1 turned to attack, followed by Yellow 2. The enemy aircraft spiraled upwards, and we followed but did not get within range. We finally broke into cloud, and on coming out saw no trace of the squadron and so set course for home. We were followed by enemy aircraft below us but were not attacked, and landed at Southend at 11:30 hours. Pilot Officer Wozniak, Red 4, reports that several enemy aircraft came down on him from the starboard beam and opened up with cannon and machine gun. He felt a jolt, and the radio went dead, and the aircraft went into a spin from 24,000 feet. He pulled out quickly, and upon leveling off was again attacked from the port and starboard beams, as well from above astern. Machine gun bullets hit the engine and both wings. Pilot Officer Wozniak put the aircraft into a violent spin and did not pull out till reaching 8,000 feet. After setting course for home, Wozniak was not attacked again. He landed at Southend with his starboard tire punctured, but made a good landing.
I think other records show that Wozniak landed at Manston.
Examination of his aircraft showed a large cannon hole through the fuselage near the tail, which severed the radio cable and one control wire. A machine gun hits on the engine through the tailplane and both of the wings. The aircraft is assessed as E category damage. Wozy is lucky to be here. Flight Sergeant Aitken reports, "I was Blue 4 and heard Pilot Officer Hurst, Red 3, report 6 enemy aircraft behind. I looked back, following Blue 3 Pilot Officer Parr, and then heard the CO say, 'Break!' We broke left and I saw an enemy aircraft, which I think was a ME-109F, attacking Pilot Officer Parr from quarter port astern. I turned slightly to port and gave this enemy aircraft a long burst, sweeping him along the beam as he crossed my sight with cannon and machine gun. I then felt machine gun bullets hit the armor plate at my back as bullets perforated my cockpit cover. My aircraft gave a lurch, and the receiver transmitter went unserviceable. I went into a steep turn and then leveled out and started weaving. I saw nothing more of my section. I then saw an enemy aircraft on my starboard, about 500 feet above and approximately 400 yards away. I took a hasty look around and saw another on my port, about 500 yards away and several more some distance behind. The enemy aircraft on my starboard side dropped its port wing slightly, so I figured he was coming in to attack. I turned right into him and opened fire from a range of 200 yards at his front quarter port. He fired as he came down and I saw Tracer pass underneath. The enemy aircraft then broke away. I continued the steep turn to the right, then leveled out at 10,000 feet and headed for home. I went into a steep left turn and leveled out at 5,000 feet. I throttled back, reduced boost and headed for the White Cliffs. I had a look around to see what damage had been done to decide whether I could make Hawkinge. The nose wanted to go up, so I trimmed fully forward, which took most of the pressure off of the stick. The engine started to sputter, puffs of white smoke and flames came out of the exhaust. Gasoline was leaking into the cockpit and the aircraft was losing height. I then decided it was about time that I got out. Holding the stick with my left hand, I undid the straps and slid the hood back. I opened the door and throttled back and pulled the nose up. Then I held onto the stick while I put my left foot on the wing, pulled the ripcord and fell backwards out of the aircraft. My chute opened and almost got caught on the tail. This was done at 1,000 feet. As I went down, I saw the aircraft hit the deck with a hell of a bang and sink immediately. I inflated my Mae West and turned the quick release, and it seemed like no time before I hit the water. I had a hold of the dinghy strap as I cannot swim, and I hit the water facing the wind with the parachute pulling me along my back. I struck the quick release, holding onto the dinghy strap, and gave the strap a hard jerk to free the dinghy from the parachute. It inflated and I climbed in, found the paddles and looked for the shore. I saw a Spitfire circling, this was Squadron Leader Deere, and later saw several more aircraft. I was picked up 25 to 30 minutes later by a rescue launch, given a drink of scotch, rubbed down and put to bed, eventually landing at Dover.
Once out of ammunition, and with the air still sprinkled with German fighters all over, and not seeing any Spitfires, Al decided it was time to retreat. He began a series of circling turns and descents, and went diving full throttle for home. On the way back, he found another low-flying Spitfire. He passed it just as the pilot was bailing out. Simultaneously, a couple miles to his left, he saw another Spitfire crash, and could just barely make out a parachute. Deere circled around the first pilot, saw him get into a raft, then climbed higher to radio his position. He then proceeded to the second pilot and did the same thing, circled above and radioed the pilot's position. He had trouble finding the spot where the Spitfire went down, but eventually found an oil spill indicating where the Spitfire hit the water. He saw the pilot in a raft and thought he might have recognized him as his friend, Mitzi, who was Blue 1. Being low on fuel, Al had done everything he could, so he headed back to England and landed at the closest airfield, which was Lympne. He noticed 2 launches going out as he was taking off again, and hoped that the 2 pilots he had reported positions on were going to get picked up. The first pilot that went in was Aitken, and he was picked up, but the search aircraft never found the second pilot. Deere couldn't believe it because the 2 planes went down so close together. He thinks the searchers were looking too far south, so he and Walker went back up again and searched for an hour and a half in the afternoon. But they couldn't find the oil spill or the dinghy with the pilot in it. Searches continued throughout the next day, but it was a mystery what happened to that pilot who was in the raft. 403 Squadron lost 6 pilots and 7 aircraft that day. After losing so many leaders and pilots for a second time, the squadron was sent up north for a rest. Deere thought morale was pretty good and they should keep on fighting. He went to see Trafford Lee Mallory about it. Lee Mallory was running 11 Group at that time. Lee Mallory commented, "Deere was too fond of a fight and taking unnecessary risks." That caught Deere by surprise. He felt it was just bad luck being caught in the trap by the Germans, and he thought it was ironic he was being admonished, since the goal of the mission was to seek and destroy the enemy. Here's that captured JG-2 FW-190A3. It was mistakenly landed by an adjutant at an RAF airfield. 403 Squadron was formed in May of 1941. For the first month, they flew a mix of Tomahawks and Spitfires. Al Deere is famous for flying KLB, a Spitfire Mark I. There were actually about 3 versions of this with the Kiwi logo. Here's a photo of Al's Mark IX. As a wing commander, he wasn't associated with any particular squadron, and wing commanders were free to put their initials on their aircraft. Thanks for watching.